I think we're up and running. Hi, everybody. It's Leslie with the New Mexico Small Business Development Center, and I'm here with Eric Spellman. We've got a lot of attendees today, so I'm excited because this is going to be a great topic and interesting. Really, I'm not even sure what it means. So Eric's going to tell us Eric's 10 favorite phone apps to run your business. I want to remind everyone that Eric's great at looking at the questions, picking up the questions, answering the questions throughout the entire webinar. So don't be shy, type them into the Q&A. Eric, over to you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Leslie. And as always, I'm excited to be here. This topic is one I get asked about a lot, because I travel a lot. And when I travel, that means I need to run my business from wherever I am. And sometimes I don't have a laptop out. Sometimes I'm out and about, I'm in a Starbucks, I'm in a restaurant, or I'm on a bus or in an airport somewhere, and I need to check something critical about my business. And so I made it a point a long time ago to be able to run my business from anywhere on the planet. I also had a situation where we lost power at our company for a long time. I mean, it was a terrible situation. And so I never wanted to be not able to run things, because when systems go down, if you have your own servers and they go down, everyone's pretty much just twiddling their thumbs. That's wasted time. That's lost money. That's clients you could have had. So I determined to be able to run my business from anywhere and even from my phone. So what you're going to see are my top favorite programs, my top favorite apps, if you will, that run on both Android and iPhone, that basically allow me to run my entire company from my hand, from my phone. So get ready as we dive in. My first and favorite one of all always will be Gmail. Now, I know some of you use Outlook. I know some of you use other email programs like Yahoo, but keep in mind, what I'm talking about is business. I'm not talking about using like a gmail.com address for business. Please don't do that. Please, please, please don't do that. If you have a business, then your email address needs to be tied to the same domain, something.com, as your website. It makes you look more stable. It makes you look bigger than you really are. Because when you send a business email and it ends in AOL.com or gmail.com or yahoo.com, people, it looks like you could be a fly-by-night, okay? So one of the things I do is I get a Gmail business account. And I tie my .com, which for me is ericspellman.com. So my email is eric@ericspellman.com instead of ericspellman8493 You know what I'm saying? So mine is just eric@ericspellman.com. Now, like I said, it is the best one hands down. And you're probably asking why. The number one reason is because it has the best uptime of any of them. And I mean any of them. 5 nines of uptime is what I call it. 99.999% of the time, which basically means Google promises that their email will only be down maybe 3 seconds a year. 3 seconds. You see, when your email goes down, your communication goes down. The other thing I like about it is I can have multiple accounts, and I do have multiple accounts. I have my free Gmail accounts. I have some other .com Gmail accounts I run, and I can manage all of them from the app on my phone. I'm telling you, people, it is the best hands down. Tie it to your domain, like I said. Don't leave it at a gmail.com address. Now, keep in mind, they also give you 15 gigabytes of storage for that email and any other files you might have. Now, you may think you'll never run out of that, but be careful. I've already had to up mine into the 1 terabyte. But keep in mind, I'm only using less than half of that. And I've got 20 years of email in there. 20 years. Which means, and this is the beautiful thing about it, I can be on my phone in an airport and search through 20 years of email in half a second. You know how long it takes, like an Outlook, which I hate. to do just a basic email search, it could take forever. But since your email is stored in the cloud on Gmail's super fast servers, maybe there was a client I think I'd met like 10 years ago. I could do a search of all my email, 20 years of email, and boom, it shows right up. And when you're on the phone with the client, that kind of fast searching is worth it. You can also preview docs with apps, including Microsoft Word and Excel. And that not even Gmail apps. You can preview PDFs in it without having to download them and then go open them in the appropriate app. That's another thing that I really like. So if someone emails me a Microsoft Word document, I can open it directly on my phone in Gmail without having to have Microsoft Word. It makes it so easy. And so, number one, best email system for business, hands down, is Gmail. I am not a fan of Outlook and servers, not at all. I would rather just use Gmail. I haven't had any problems. I've had friends who use like Microsoft servers for their Exchange servers. You ever heard that word? It's a dirty word in my mouth because I've had Exchange servers go down and they're just a pain. And anyway, Gmail has worked the best for me. I'm a big fan. Now, having said that, the next app in my list of top 10 apps to run your business, my next app is going to surprise you because it's Office 365. Now, y'all know that Google does have its own versions of Microsoft Word and PowerPoint. In fact, I'm using Google's version of PowerPoint to show you these slides. In fact, it's called Google Slides. But on your phone, I highly recommend that you go ahead and get Office 365. The actual apps, you can download them for free. I'll just be honest, they're the most accepted docs programs out there, okay? And basically it allows you to download Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint to your phone. That way you can actually use them in their full capacity on your phone. Like I said, those are the three that you can get. You really don't want to be downloading like a publisher to your phone. You need a computer for that. But the three big ones that everyone uses are Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. And trust me, when you're working with a spreadsheet on your phone, or better yet, on a tablet, the app version of Excel is so much better. Now you're saying, well, Eric, where do you store all these documents? Well, of course, you can save them on your phone. That's no problem. But Microsoft with Office 365 also gives you access to their cloud server, which they call OneDrive. And it's great. It's kind of like G Drive or Google Drive, where you get 15 gigabytes of free with Google. With OneDrive, you also get some free space as well. Now, let me just tell you how the pricing on Office 365 works. Well, the apps that you can download for your phone are free and give you the ability to view just any Word, PowerPoint, and Excel document. If you want some extra features, you're going to have to pay a little. But I'm telling you, the price is right because I'll be honest. There is a free version of Office 365 you can download to your computers and you can kind of use with limited functionality. But just go ahead and drop $1. Go ahead and drop a little bit more money. So for instance, the Office 365 Home Edition for $7.99 a month, okay? You pay it a year at a time, but it ends up being like $7.99 a month. You can download the full versions of Word, PowerPoint, and Excel to up to 6 computers. Did you hear me? So like every member of your family could have their own copies of Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, and all you're paying is basically $8 a month. And the cool thing is, it automatically updates, okay? So if they come out with a new version of Word, it automatically updates. You don't got to go buy it. You don't have to go buy another version like we used to have to do. So there's also a personal version. If you're like just really cheap, it's like only one user, but it's $5.99 a month. You get the same thing. Now there are business versions. So everyone asks me, Eric, do I have to buy the business version or can I buy the personal version? Well, if you work out of your house, I think there's no question you can get the personal version, because you're going to use it both ways. And that way your family can use it as well. In your office, you're going to have to make the decision on what you call it because the business version does cost a little bit more. Let me show you what I mean. This is the Office 365 page where they kind of explain everything you're going to get with it. And over here is for 2 to 6 people, Microsoft 365. It's $99 a year, which comes out to the price I told you about. Or if you want to really pay monthly, you're going to pay a little more at $9.99 a month. Okay. And they do have a business. And if you click on business, here's what it costs for a business version. They do have some basics for $5 a month for business. And you get a terabyte of cloud storage, which I'll be honest is more than Google gives you. And that's really one of the advantages of going business is you get more cloud storage. And then of course, but most people end up with this 365 business standard, which is $12.50 a month, but it's for one user. And so it gives you Word, Excel, PowerPoint, but it also throws in Teams, Outlook, Exchange, OneDrive, and Microsoft Access and Publisher, which you can download to your computer. So if you use Publisher, like for advertising or create databases and Access, you're going to get those with the business version. Okay. And like I said, there's also cloud versions that you can use as well. Now, what I mean by that is, let's say you're on a hotel computer. Your phone, you need a computer, but your laptop's back up in your room or you don't have one. So you go to a hotel computer, one of those scary little things down in their little office business complex. Well, you can log in, it's a website, and you can log into a web version of Microsoft Word or a web version of Excel or a web version of PowerPoint and use them. It's a web version. It's like actual Word, but it's like you're using it in a browser. And it worked quite well. I'll be honest, they do a good job. So nothing downloaded. And that way, when you log out, you've left nothing, including data on that hotel computer, which is really the best of anything. My third, and I can't tell you how much I love this app. Oh my gosh, I love this app. It's called Adobe Fill and Sign. I can't tell you how many times I've had a client send me a contract, someone wanting me to speak, send me some forms I have to fill out, and I'm in an airport. And it's like, I can't go print this out and then, sign it and then somehow scan it back in and send it back. So what I do is they send me the forms via email as PDFs, and I whip out this little app. It's called Adobe Fill and Sign, and it's totally free to download. And it basically allows you to sign and fill PDF forms for free. Okay. And when I mean sign, I mean with a signature, or with initials, or fill out a form and then share that form back to someone else via email. It is wonderful. Now, when you get it, you're going to tie it to your Google or Apple account. And this allows you to kind of save it out there in your cloud area and have access to your documents. And that's a good thing. So I do highly recommend that. It allows you to create, and you can use your finger to do it. I mean, you're pretty much just doing your initials and signing your autograph on your phone, and you create your signature, and then it saves it. And then any document you need to sign, you can just drag and drop your signature onto that form, and it kind of locks it on there. Same with your initials. And like I said, it just makes it so easy. So I'm just sitting in an airport signing a document, and when I'm done, I've never printed it out. I just send it back to my clients or send it back to whomever, and it's signed and it's done. And I have a copy of it. And like I said, it makes it very, very easy. And depending on the document, you can also very easily adjust the text size, like to fill in a form, so it's not real small. Or if what you're typing doesn't fit in the little spaces they give you, you can shrink the font so it will fit. and you can align exactly where it is so it looks good. So some of you, you OCD people that want it to fit right, you can finally adjust where you're filling it in. Makes it very, very easy. And you can go get that. It looks like this when you go, like I use an Android, but you can go to the Apple Store and get it too. And it's called Adobe Fill and Sign. And like I said, it makes it very easy to go in and, like I said, sign to your signature. When you click on it, you go in there and you could just type your initials, click the check, and it kind of just drops it where you want. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's gotten hybrid. It's the best one out there in my opinion, and it's official Adobe. Now, be careful when you do this. I'll just be honest. Be careful when you use this app because there's no danger. Don't worry. They're going to try to upsell you on some things. They're going to try to sign you up for the Adobe Cloud, which is kind of Adobe's version of OneDrive, Adobe's version of Google Drive, where you can save all your signed documents, blah, blah, blah. I don't do that. I just save it in my Google Drive. You could save it in your OneDrive, wherever you want to put it. Okay. And let's go to the next one. Jumping back and forth like this is so much fun. Okay. Here we go. The next one, Freshbooks. Now, Freshbooks think of it as QuickBooks, okay? But it works, in my opinion, it has the best phone app there is, okay? Now, I will tell you this, I'll just be honest with you. QuickBooks bought Freshbooks. So technically, you're under Intuit, okay? Intuit is the company that owns QuickBooks, which is a good thing in my opinion, because they're the best software out there. FreshBooks is the easiest though. It's kind of designed for non-accounting people, which trust me, I am a non-accounting person. I had to take accounting like 4 times in college. I mean, I have an MBA, but I had to take accounting. That accounting is my kryptonite. And so I love FreshBooks because it makes it easy. It doesn't use a lot of language that only an accountant would understand. I understand invoices. I understand expenses. It uses normal language, and the way they design their app is amazing. One of the things I use it for is to easily create and send invoices. So like I travel quite a bit. And so like when I leave a place and I need to invoice them, I can do it in the airport. I can send them an invoice from the airport and just kind of plug their information directly into an invoice, write out what the charge is, and then hit email, and boom, it goes to them. And I can even tell if they've opened it. I can tell it automatically puts a timer on it, and has it been paid? And believe it or not, one of the really cool things I like about FreshBooks is that they can just pay electronically. And I've had people just click a button on my invoice and put in their card, and boom, I get paid immediately, even before I get home. It allows you to very easily see overdue invoices. I love the reports on your phone, keep in mind. You can also log in on a computer and you can see more. And obviously I do that a lot when I have a computer, but on my phone, it makes it very easy to see those overdue invoices. I can generate numerous reports, who owes me money, who have I made the most money from, what my projections are. I can see detailed customer accounts, store a lot of information about customers. So I don't have to keep typing in the same information over and over and over. QuickBooks does have its own app, but I'll be honest, I like FreshBooks better. And like I said, it's mainly because I'm not an accounting person. Now, before I go to that one, let me show you FreshBooks. Right now, FreshBooks is having a big sale. So if you've been thinking about doing this for the next 12 days, they're really cutting it down, their pricing on FreshBooks. Because yeah, FreshBooks is not free, people, okay? No one said this was going to be free, but it is super cheap. Always look for the pricing button is what I tell people. So click pricing, and then when you look, you get 70% off 3 months, and it shows you down here what they're going to charge. Okay, you're immediately going to look at that and go, oh wow, $4.50 a month. It's cheaper than Starbucks. Get it? Well, keep in mind, you're only going to be able to have 5 clients. So if you're small and maybe you only have 5 clients and they're all your business, this is good for you. But what they do is they charge you based on the number of clients for the most part. Okay, 50 billable clients. And then they also show you kind of what else. So read each of these as to what you're going to get with each particular feature that you're going after. Okay. So like I said, the main limit here is the number of clients. 450 to 750, you go from 5 clients to 50 clients. Okay. And then if you're going to pay more, it goes up from there. And obviously paying for the year is the cheapest way to go. Now, when we talk about my next one, this is the one that helps you with your employees. You know, we're always hearing these ads, you know, about, oh, get this software, it'll help all your employee needs. The best one with the best app, I'll be honest with you, is Gusto. Okay, Gusto Payroll. I love it because the app for employees is amazing and it allows them to do a lot of self-help without having to call you. You may not be big enough to have an HR department, but with Gusto Payroll, they kind of handle a lot of that for you. It also does time tracking. So if your employees are having to turn in time reports, you know, clock in, clock out kind of stuff, it allows them to do that from their phone. And allows you to verify it and to look at it without them having to send it to you all the time. It allows you to approve it and disapprove it. And you can keep very elaborate employee profiles. In other words, everything you have to track about an employee safely, you know, everything you would need to know, your employee files are in here. That way, if a fire burns down your business, you haven't lost all your employee files. I'm telling you, it is one of the best things out there. And their little app for the employees is called Gusto Wallet. And so basically when you pay them, it tells them immediately, hey, you've been paid and here's what your paycheck looks like. And they can look back at all their previous paychecks and how they were broken out. And believe it or not, with Gusto Wallet, they can actually do some other things. They can move money and they can save money. And I'll be honest, with Gusto Wallet, they can even get some get paid early loans if they want. Some of you are going, ooh. Okay. So let's see, just checking our questions here. Jessica said, do you suggest FreshBooks and QuickBooks or just FreshBooks? For me, it's just FreshBooks. QuickBooks does have some more features. I mean, if you really need some of that inventory tracking, things like that, that you can go into. But if you're just looking to invoice people and make sure you get paid, FreshBooks is the way to go. I'm here to tell you. Employee self-service, like I said, is one of the big ones on Gusto. Is where they can go in and do it themselves without having to call you and going, hey, can you send me a copy of my last pay stub? Can you do this? Can you do that? The employees can get that themselves. They log in, they use an app. It's so easy. Okay. It also has a lot of HR document storage. So when an employee signs something, it's out there. Or your policies and procedures manuals out there. You know, when do you take, what's your official vacation schedule? You know, it's out there. All the things that, instead of handing the employees a manual, a printed manual, and then having to print out a billion of them again when you update one little thing, you can keep it all in this, and it makes it so much easier. And best of all, there's a lot of onboarding tools. In other words, an employee onboarding means bringing on a new employee. You know, there's a lot of forms to fill out, a lot of things for a new employee to fill out. And so Gusto makes it easy and they can do it on their phone and get that information to you. Let me show you what it looks like. Okay, so Gusto, like I said, just go to gusto.com and it kind of shows you a lot of what the pricing is and a lot of what you get. But once again, you're going to look for that little pricing, okay? And this is where you find out what it's going to actually cost, okay? The core one, which is what they start with, is at $6 a month per person, okay? You know, so $6 a month per employee. Now, some of y'all are thinking, Eric, don't a lot of these add up? Yes, But when you consider how you were tracking it before, or the software you would have had to buy anyway to track all of this is so much easier, and it's in the cloud, and your employees can do a lot yourself. So remember, your time has a value too. So when you get your employees to be able to self-help themselves, and you're not having to constantly go to the personnel files and pull things, it just makes it easier. Also keep in mind it's safer because your employee files are in the cloud. They're not in some filing cabinet that anyone after hours can come up and get into. And they'll tell me, well, it's a locked file. Anyone can open those little locks on file cabinets. That's so easy. So they also have one that's $12 a month, and it's for teams. Okay. So teams gives you the ability to delegate, do things like that. Another big thing is that with Gusto, the $6 a month one, they have 2-day direct deposit where you're guaranteed that if you deposit your pay, it'll put it in your employee's accounts within 2 days. If you move up to the next level, it goes down to 1 day direct deposit. Now, that doesn't mean you can't time it to where it hits on the right payday. I'm just saying, you go from $6 a month to $12 a month, and they have a few other things involved. But the majority of you, I think, are going to be able to handle it at the $6 a month because, I mean, it is that easy. Okay, but take a look. If you're a larger company, you may want to look at some of the others. The third level up really is their highest level, and it's called Concierge, the fancy stuff, $12 a month. But you also pay $149 a month extra, just in general, not per employee, but in general. The main thing the Concierge gives you is the ability to call up an actual HR person. Like if you have a question, an HR question, it just gives you 24/7 access to an HR person, which $149 a month is cheaper than hiring an HR person. Okay, so could be an option. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay, HubSpot. HubSpot is a big one for me because basically it's CRM. And if you don't know what CRM is, oh my gosh, you'd better learn, because CRM is short for Customer Relationship Management. Customer Relationship Management. It is your customer database. It's where you store all the information about your customers. It's where you store all the notes you've taken. Oh, I met with him today. He wants the new pricing. Make sure and get it to him. And then you can do tasks on that, remind me in a week that I've done this, or send them our new pricing sheet. And it gives you one click on the app. And I mean, on your phone, it's so easy. You get a call from a client, it can automatically pull up that client based on their phone number on your phone. So you can immediately be looking at their information while you talk to them. Think of it as your customer database. That's what CRM is. And then when you're done talking, you can just write down some notes about that client. That way you can always go back and look at their history on what you've told them, in case they're saying, well, you told me that. No, you didn't, because we talked on this day at this time. Makes it really nice. It also ties, I'll just be honest before I go to the sales funnels, it also will immediately pull up all their emails for you. Like it ties into Gmail or Outlook, and it will pull in all the emails that you've had with them. Like, so when you pull up their account, you can go look at all the emails, just their emails, and it makes it very, very easy. Okay, just checking the chats real quick. Is there a separate, back on Gusto, is there a separate app for employees and employer? Yes, there are separate apps to manage it, and then there's one for the employees. So the next thing you might want to be able to do with CRMs is create sales funnels. Now, if you don't know what a sales funnel is, it's how you manage your prospect to becoming a customer. You start at the beginning where you're reaching out to people, hey, come check us out. And then they talk to you, and they've entered the funnel. And then after they talk to you, then you send them some forms, and they move further in the funnel. They fill out the forms. And then they maybe get to where they buy a product. And then there's the after the sales. Basically, it tracks these clients as they move through the funnel. You're saying, why would you need that? Because once you start selling a lot to a lot of clients, especially if it's a service, you need to know that you didn't miss a step. And what a sales funnel does is it makes sure that these people move and go through every step before they get to the end. And it allows you to delegate and hand off tasks to people. And it makes it very, very easy. You can also assign employees and clients to projects. I really like this. Back when I designed websites, each website was a project. And so I would assign the client to it, and then I would assign some of my employees to it. And then all of that was tracked under that project. And I can immediately go see all the projects that an employee was on, so I could see how busy they were. Or I could see all the projects that a client was in. I could open up a project and immediately see everyone who was supposed to be involved. So if I wanted to go check, I knew all the players right away because they were all linked into it. I could also see all the notes tied to that project and even see the emails that are going back and forth between my clients and my employees. You can also do projections on project revenues and track expenses and look at how much time is being spent, which when I did websites was key, because you charge a fixed fee to build a website. But if it takes, 50 hours to build a website versus 3 hours to build a website, it's obviously going to be costing you more. Okay. And so it helps you not have any cost overruns. And so you can track, make sure that your projects are staying in budget. It's just amazing. That's what a good CRM does for you people. And one of the best things, it can automate some communications. So like, especially in the beginning when they are prospects. In other words, when a client is a prospect, they haven't even bought anything from you. And so you maybe called them up and said, hey, can I send you some, copies of some stuff we've done? They say, oh, sure. So what you do is in HubSpot, you create an account for them. And then you can just click a button and it sends, whatever you're wanting. Maybe in my case, maybe it was a portfolio. And then it reminds you, hey, you haven't heard back from them, because it kind of monitors your email from them too. And so then you can even set up to where it'll automatically send a, hey, just wanted to make sure you got that last email I sent. Hey, I would love to call and set up a meeting to discuss what I sent you. And it can automatically send those things out and remind you to send them out if you don't want to automate it. So it's really cool. Let me show you what it looks like. HubSpot, oops, wrong one. Pull it up real quick. And there we go. HubSpot, like I said, it makes it very easy. Now, you got to be careful with HubSpot. And once again, it's not that because it's dangerous. I'm not trying to say that it's dangerous to use. I use it, but their marketing model and their pay model is based on features. And so click on pricing and it will quickly tell you kind of how they do their pricing. Because a lot of people, they use a free version, okay, for a little while. But they have a $45 a month that allows you to look at this. You can put in up to 1,000 marketing contacts and you pay monthly. It allows you to create some forms. It allows you to do email marketing, send large amounts of email to your clients, have specified landing pages where they can come back and fill in forms, live chat, and some really cool things. And they always want to bug you with this. And so then, it can go up higher and higher and higher. It's not per user. Don't get me wrong, people. These numbers are not per user. They're based on the features that you want. And so what I recommend is look through these. Most of y'all will be fine with the free version for a little bit, but then you'll probably move up into this $45 a month. Okay. And that's where most of y'all are going to stay unless you have more than 1,000 contacts. Okay. Question from Drew. Does HubSpot integrate with data collection of new contacts on a website? Can I avoid? Yes. In fact, that's one of the things HubSpot is known for, is that it'll give you a form that you can embed on a website. And that way, when a client fills in the form on your website, it actually goes straight into HubSpot. And it can even start an automated set of emails or an automated system and notify you. I'm telling you, it really is done well. A lot of people use HubSpot like to help people register for things. And like I said, it works really well. And yes, you can have stuff moved automatically into Constant Contact. There's a lot there are a lot of tie-ins between some of these major apps where they can talk to each other and see each other's databases. And I do happen to know that there is a big one between Constant Contact and HubSpot. So yeah, you definitely ought to check it out. It's well worth the money in my opinion. Okay, my next app, I'm telling you, it's called Tiny Scanner. How many times have you ever had a physical form and you need to turn it into a PDF? You know, some of y'all will take pictures of a form and email the pictures to somebody. But what you really want is to turn it into a PDF. I love this little app on my phone. I love this app, and I've used it so many times. And it basically, like I said, allows you to put a physical page down on a table and take a picture of it. Now, some of y'all might ask, Eric, what's the difference between that and just taking a picture? Well, because it has tools in there that will automatically correct for perspective. Like if you didn't hold your phone just right, you know, or get the contrast right, it can automatically adjust that. And it can make these forms look really good. I mean, almost like the originals. And so, yeah, OCR is also available. Now, some of y'all may not even know what OCR means. And so you can use it to impress people at parties, but OCR is simply short for optical character recognition. Some of y'all are going, okay, that didn't help. OCR simply means when you are scanning, you scan a printed page and you turn this, the computer can go in and actually read the words and save them like in a form you can put in Microsoft Word. Okay. So like maybe you have a printed document, and what a lot of people would do is they would retype it because they don't have it in Microsoft Word, but they need the actual words as words, not just as a picture of words. And so in the old days, you would actually just put that on a little stand next to your computer and just retype it into, say, Microsoft Word. OCR, you don't have to. OCR, you take a picture of the document and the computer will go line by line, turning the pictures of words into actual words. Hold on, let me check my chat. Good. Okay, yeah, good to know. Okay. And so that is kind of nice. I like OCR a lot. Like I said, especially when I need to get an electronic version of something. And just instead of me retyping it, I just let Tiny Scanner, and it does a really good job of interpretation. You know, unless it's a dirty document, hard to read, it does a really good job. Okay. It also makes it very easy to share scanned documents, email, and cloud. So if I scan a physical document, I can then very easily email it as a PDF to anybody. Okay. Or I could even bring it into Adobe, fill and sign, like I showed you earlier, and sign it, fill it out if I want to. So I can take a physical document, take a picture of it, save it as a PDF, and then fill it out, sign it, send it electronically. It is so cool what you can do. Now, some of y'all might be saying, Eric, can't Adobe fill and sign allow you to create PDFs as well? Yes, it can. However, Adobe wants to charge you. They'll let you sign it for free, but to create PDFs, they want you to store it in like the Adobe document cloud, blah, 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 blah. I'm as cheap as they get, okay? And so I'm always looking for the way to save a little money. And when you're a small business just starting out, you know, you want to save money where you can. So I try to find the right app that gives me the right features. Question from Wendy. Do you need to use Constant Contact with HubSpot, or can you use a different emailer similar to Constant Contact? No. In fact, HubSpot has an email. It's not as good as Constant Contact. And what's the other one? There's another big one that's out there and I can't think of it. But believe it or not, HubSpot does have an emailing system similar to Constant Contact. So you can use theirs without even getting Constant Contact. But yeah, there are other ones out there. And MailChimp, that's the other one. MailChimp, M-A-I-L. Don't go to the other one. M-A-I-L and then chimp, like chimpanzee. MailChimp.com. And it is just as good, in my opinion, if not better, a little better than Constant Contact. But both will tie into HubSpot. But like I said, HubSpot does have some built-in ability to send out massive amounts of email. Okay. Like I said, Tiny Scanner makes it easy to, once you've created a PDF, then share it anywhere you want to put it. Okay, let's go take a look at Tiny Scanner. This is what it looks like when you find it on your, iPhone, iTunes, whatever store, your Apple store, or in your Android Play Store. It looks like that. It's a funny little icon like that. And you just position your phone over the document, and it, like I said, it automatically adjusts to make it an actual. It's not off. You know what I'm saying? Because when you take a picture with your phone, many times it'll be off a little bit. And so if you ever printed it out, it would be like tilted. Well, Tiny Scanner fixes that automatically, and that's why I like it better than just taking pictures of documents. Let's see. Okay. Ring Central. That's my next big one. Having a business phone system can be expensive. And a lot of the old ones were tied, well, to your business, to your physical location of your business. But I told you, I like the ability to run my company from anywhere. And that includes my entire phone system. And so I really don't have any equipment at my office for phones. It's all kind of in the cloud at Ring Central. And it basically allows you to have phone, phone trees and all that. It works with phones, PCs, and handsets. You can actually get some just basic handsets and plug them in at your office, like permanent phone systems, and it'll work with that. It'll work with your existing phone number. It has voicemail for all your employees. Employees can log in on a PC or laptop, and they can receive phone calls on that. A lot of people don't like having phone calls go to their cell, because then that way when they call from their cell, it gives out their personal cell number. Well, with Ring Central, you have an app, and if you use the app to make those calls, then it has the phone number of the business or whatever phone number you want to be showing. So it really works well. And like I said, it has phone trees that you can create, for accounting, hit 1, for tech support, hit 2. And all it does is reroute those calls to wherever, to a person's cell phone, to wherever. And you can even set it up to where if people are on call, it'll automatically round robin them according to the schedule that you want them to have. The other thing I like about Ring Central, because it is your office phone system, is that it has 5 nines of uptime. Remember, 99.999% uptime. That is key, because you don't want your phone system going down, because then no one can get a hold of you. When people can't get a hold of you, when they call your number and it says, we're sorry, it makes it like people are like, oh my gosh, did they go out of business? No, you don't want that. So I like that 99.999% uptime. It's the best in the industry, to be honest. They also have a really cool feature called voicemail to text, to where if I get a voicemail on my phone, it can automatically turn that into text. Depending on how well the person is speaking, obviously. But that way I can kind of see, without having to listen to the voicemail, kind of what's going on, to see if it's important, how we all are in our meetings, where we're sitting there with our phone, pretending not to look at it, pretending to pay attention in the meeting, and I can kind of glance down, pretending, hoping they don't see me. And I can see a text come through, and it shows a voicemail that someone left me, without having to excuse myself and go listen to the voicemail to see if it's important or not, or whether someone just wants to help me with my car warranty. So let me show you Ring Central. Ring Central, and I'm already on their pricing page. It makes it very easy. This one is $20 per user per month. But you need to understand that doesn't mean every single person has to have a line. You can still forward calls to people's cells and all that. But if they're going to have their own phone number, if they're going to have their own extension, that's kind of what that's talking about. The minimum is $20, and it's up to 20 users only. But when you look at how much you're paying for your existing business phone system and all the phones you have and updating that, this really is cheaper and it's easier. And you can manage people in multiple locations. That's what I like about this the most. Instead of having to set up all these VPNs and, a way to forward, transfer a call to someone in a different state, RingCentral just handles that. So it is very easy. If you have employees or people spread out around a lot, this is your way to go. I'm telling you, it is one of the easiest ways to do it. Highly, 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 highly recommend RingCentral. It has saved me so many times. Oh, and you can also send business text messages too. So instead of using your own personal cell, you can send text messages that come from the business line and then have groups of employees check that. I mean, there's so many cool features of RingCentral. The next one is Tripit. Now, I told you that I travel quite a bit. I really do. I'm everywhere, and I'm always in airports. I'm going around. And what it does is it creates a master itinerary for me of everything, of my car rentals, my hotels, my flights. And the way it does that is you give it access to your confirmation emails. Okay, like how when you make a reservation somewhere, you get a confirmation email. Well, what Tripit does is it kind of gathers all that together. It understands what those emails say, and it kind of creates a master itinerary. It's kind of a one-page report of everything you need to know, your flight numbers, your confirmation numbers in hotels. You're not going through a stack of printed emails. You know what I'm saying? And if you travel quite a bit, like I do, this is worth it. So worth it. And the free version is really all you need. I'll just be honest. It just makes it easier and puts all your trip information in one place. It also auto adds all of this to your calendar. It works with all carriers, airlines, taxis, Ubers, everything, and hotels. It even has built-in airport maps, which I'll be honest, it's worth it just for that. You know how you're like, oh, I only have 5 minutes. I got to get to this gate. What's the fastest way? Bam, it shows you. So I use it. That's why I wrote, I love this app. To get to Tripit, I mainly just use the app, although you can log in and see it on a computer. And like I said, the pricing, free is what I pretty much use, and it automatically just organizes all that. If you want to pay a little, and it's only $50 a year, I mean, cheap, 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 cheap. The other things that you get is it can find you better seats on a plane. It can send you real-time flight alerts, gate changes, baggage claim info, helps you get through security, blah, blah, it tracks all your rewards programs. And I mean, does quite a bit. So if you want to just throw a few extra dollars their way, they do give you some really cool features, but I'll be honest, I use the free version. Okay, let's see. Just checking to make sure there's any chats. Okay, here we go. Back to RingCentral. Do you have two separate cell phones for business and personal, or can it all tie in? Yeah, Jessica, that way you don't have to be giving out your personal cell phone, but you can use one cell phone. That's the advantage of RingCentral, is because you're going to use the app on your cell phone to make those calls. If you make it from the app, then the phone number that shows up on their phone will be your business number. That way you don't have to have two cell phones. RingCentral is so much better than having two cell phones. So great question, Jessica. Okay, so yes, I love Tripit. Highly, 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 highly recommend it. And so Tripit. Okay, and here we go. MileIQ. Now, some of you may actually have this. It's a fairly popular app. If you drive a lot, it can make it so easy to track all your expenses. If you're in a situation where you have to keep the miles for business versus personal, like you have a company vehicle, and the company will reimburse you for all the business travel, but not your personal travel, you must have this app. You've got to get this app, because what it does is it tracks every trip you make. And what I mean by that is, it tracks every trip you make. And then it pops up a little thing on your phone and it says, hey, this trip you made from here to here, was that business or personal? And you just swipe left or right. It's kind of like Tinder, okay? You swipe, I think it's left for business, right for personal. And then it's just done. It is the easiest mileage tracking program, period, because it actually tracks it. And it creates mileage reports without you having to lift a finger. And it's perfect for taxes because I'll be honest, the IRS does require you to keep mileage logs. If you're going to claim to the IRS that you had this many miles for business and they ever come back and audit you, they're going to want to see the reports proving that those were business trips of all the business trips you took. And this does it automatically without you having to keep a clipboard. And also business expenses. So like I said, if you have a company vehicle and you are having to keep up with all that, instead of filling out the odometer readings and all of that, you can just use MileIQ. And it makes it so easy. And it also shows you all the historical drives you track. So it's kind of like, where were you on this day? Well, according to MileIQ, I went from here to here. Makes it so easy. Now, the thing about MileIQ, though, is the free trial gives you 40 drives a month. Okay, so you can use it for free, try it out, but it's only going to track 40 drives a month. Now, keep in mind, driving to work counts as a drive. Driving back to work counts as a drive. And so you're going to quickly fill that up. So most people just end up paying the $60 a year. That's it. $60 a year, which is only $5.99 a month. $60 a year and getting unlimited. And the key is to remember, after you've done a few of these trips, to swipe left or swipe right. Mark it as business. You can even go in and say, oh, I also paid $3 parking. I did this. You can put notes on each one if you want for your mileage reports. Okie dokie. Let's see. Okay. Whew. Now you've seen Eric's top 10 phone apps to run your entire business. Are there any questions? And we had quite a few great questions during the presentation. I tried to catch them as we went. So are there any other questions?
You did really good keeping up with them because they were coming in fast and furious all over the place. And I'm glad that you were keeping up with them because I got a little confused. And I want to tell you that a lot of times you're going to pack up the laptop and everything, but the apps are so handy because we were traveling and I'm a big fan of hotspots. Who would have thought? I know it's not an app, but I'm glad I had some of the apps because I was going to my father-in-law's and he had turned off his internet, his Wi-Fi. And all of a sudden I felt like, wait, okay, I've got a hotspot. I've got these apps. I can still do some of the work that I needed. So I agree with you. You've got to work on the go on occasion.
Yep, you're exactly right. I'm telling you, and you can, like I said, I tried to give you an app that would represent every major piece of your business that you would need to run. And I'll be honest, I have run my whole business from my phone before. I've done it. So.
Yeah, especially with, if you're in a situation where things are going down and stuff, you're at the airport, run it from your phone. That's awesome. I want to tell you, you always get such great compliments at the end. Thank you for the info. You are motivational as well as informational. This was over the top.
Thank you.
Fantastic. I'm telling you, what a great way to wrap up a week. If there is not any, very thorough, nicely done. Is there any other questions? There is a question. Let's see what we got. Thank you so much. Eric, they love you.
Well, go get those apps and try them out. I really think, especially some of you, whoever was asking about having two cell phones, one for business, one for, you can really save a lot of money with that Ring Central. I'm telling you. Absolutely. And your sanity as well.
Super helpful. Super helpful. Thank you. Super fab. Appreciate the practicality. We will end on a high note. Eric, again, thank you as always. You guys have a great rest of your week. We'll see you next time. Bye.